up. I see Bill, I see Bonnie, and waiting for the codes to go. Bill, why don't we count backwards from five and let's see if everything magic happens. You ready?
Ready.
Five, four,
Four,
three,
three,
two,
two,
one.
one.
It looks like Facebook is having a little trouble, but it looks like we're on YouTube, we're on LinkedIn, and we've got one Facebook page. That's good enough for me. Okay, let's play the music and let's get this party started. Here we go. You want to dance with me?
So you wanna be
So you want to be
a cool
a cool kid
hanging with the inset.
hanging with the inset.
Looking
That's not the insole, that's the inset. We're live on YouTube. I just got the notice. Casting your net. Here we go, Bill.
So you
Ready
wanna
for the drum roll. Bop, 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 bop. I have my drums in the other room. I'm Bonnie D. Happy to be here on a new edition of We Dish 2 TOO, all in caps, Saucy Dame and Cool Dude. And I'm welcoming a very special young man who's been on several of my other shows. His name is Bill Williams, but we're going semi incognito by Bill W. today. How are you, Bill?
I'm great, Bonnie. It's good to be with you.
Thank you so much. What kind of microphone are you using there? I'm seeing something fancy there on your screen. What do you got?
It's a Yaga Blue.
Oh, very, very not. Is it Yeti Blue or Yaga
Yeti
Blue?
Blue, I'm
Yeti
sorry.
Blue. Well, Yaga
The,
sounded much more interesting than
the,
Yeti.
the computer's a Yaga, but the microphone is a Yeti.
I'm very, very glad to know that. Okay, I would like to introduce you. And by the way, we're just here to talk. So let me just introduce the show, and then I have some interesting information about my special guest. So here we go. And if you like it, just smile a little bit. You may know us well, Bonnie D and Bill W. too. Seasoned in life, we love what we do. From social channels, virtual embrace, we love sharing insights in this special place. Here on We Dish, we're here to play, lightening up life in our uniquely fresh way. Welcoming Bill W., a truly cool dude. Here's my rhyming intro. He'll add more with attitude. Here we go. Bill W. was born mid-war in 43. Sharon, PA, cradled this boy with glee. His dad served the Corps, then built from the ground till fate flipped the script and sent them back round. From Denver to Cali to Japan and back, Bill changed schools like trains switched their track. 13 stops till a cap and a gown from Hermitage, PA to Southern Town. Bill thought in Texas he'd ride a steed, but found no saddle, just studies to heed. A band room trombone, ROTC drills, and classmates who'd chase showbiz thrills. At Lubbock High, Bill found his pace, then Texas Tech, his launch to space. Snapping shots and running news, Bill mastered every media muse. A BA, an MA, and then a bold flight, teaching grad students by studio light. At UT Austin, he'd run the show with airwaves primed for minds to grow. Bowling Green called, Bill, Bill. Bill helped them shine. He led new TV with projects so fine. Then DC beckoned, hey, Bill. He took the leap where politics and pixels, they never sleep. Bill launched a firm with a mighty reach. From FEMA to HUD, he helped them teach. He then calmed crises with poise and with flair, from St. Helens ash to Cuban despair. Bill lobbied for laws with producers' pride, with IPMA's banner held high and wide. Then back to Ohio to raise his two girls. He swapped cameras for stocks and pearls. Still, Bill's wit was hard to rest. He launched Thought for the Day at readers' request. Now his book, 20 Years of Humor, hits the shelf, each line a wink from Bill himself. And once on campus long ago, strumming along with his pal Johnny Duchendorf with dreams and a song, Bill said, stick it out, kid, get that degree. But JD dropped out, and he made history. He took the name John Denver and sang with glee. Thus the singer and songwriter and actor came to be. Bill's creativity is woven through his career, from spliced PSAs to innovation clear. He stretched each ad to 90 seconds long. Suddenly, radio stations ran them strong, and Bill made email cool with a daily joke. Sales took off as laughter spoke. At Dolly's museum, lens left behind, Bill flipped one backwards with genius in mind. Details emerged, brush hairs so fine, innovation sparked in every line. And when DC temps were office bound, Bill built a shop where creatives were found. Copywriters, artists, editors too. He billed at rates that tripled the view. A tale of travel, tech, and charm, of fatherhood's joy and career's arm. So here's to Bill, today's cool dude so bright, with tales that spark and thoughts that light. Welcome, Bill.
Oh my God, Bonnie, that is astounding.
I'm glad. And let me finish. We're here on We Dish, chatting on life's score, culture, music, food, and oh, so much more. Join us live or on demand, day or night. We're not going to be here. That's why they invented on demand. And enjoy our dishing with shared delight. Meet us for real in our live streaming glow. Make the glow, Bill. We're glowing. We're glowing. Not too badly. Comments are welcome. Just play nice. We know who you are. We know. We Dish, Too Saucy Dame and Cool Dude too, with Bonnie D and Bill W. dishing on life's fun. Pour vous. So now, what do you think? You ever been introduced that way before, Bill?
Never in my life have I even dreamed of being introduced that way.
I hope you enjoyed it.
That is marvelous. Thank you so much for
You're
putting that
welcome.
together.
You're welcome. My collaborator Sylvie and I came up with that. I wasn't happy with the first draft. I went back. I said, no, no, no. We got to get more in there. We got to do this. We got to do that. We worked on it for a long time. And when it was done, I said, now I can put that on the air. And I think Bill will like it. So I'm very, very happy.
I am astounded. It is marvelous.
I'm glad. I'm glad. And if you like it, I'll send you a clip, not the text, but I'll send you my reading of the clip. It's about probably about 2 minutes long, and you can use that anywhere you want. Okay.
Thanks.
My pleasure. Okay. Now, where did I originally meet you? It's been a while before we get to your favorite music. Where did we meet? It's been a couple months ago. How did you come to
Actually,
be?
it was last fall at the National Publicity Summit.
Publicity. So I wasn't sure. You've been on so many of my shows. I think you've been on Read My Lips, Cool
Mhm.
Conversations with Creatives. I think you've been on Technology Revolution also. Have you
No,
been
I
on
don't
that?
believe I hit that one.
Oh,
I'm willing to do it.
we're gonna have to get you on that one. And I just started a brand new show last week called HB the number 2U. Do you know what that stands for?
Not off the top of my head.
Listen. HB to you.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yes.
Okay.
And I do a shout out. I have a co host, different co host each time. I've done two already. It's about 10 minutes. I research three famous people, celebrities from acting, directing, movies, TV, songs, dancers, whatever, and some famous holidays you never heard of, and the music events in history on that date. I think this is right up your alley. And then a couple of social media stars you've never heard of who have at least 1.5 million followers, fans, or subscribers, and some of them have a billion views of their videos.
Hmm.
It's scary. They make my birthday list, and then I give you the list. You and I come on, just like this, different background. You know how to upload it. And then we take turns reading from the birthday list. It's about 10 minutes long. Would you like to do a co host with me on that one?
Sure, absolutely.
Good. I'll send you some dates. Now, let's get on to this. What is your favorite music, Bill W. Williams? What kinds of music have you liked over the years? What defines you, describes you, inspires you, or just what do you like? Talk to me.
Well, I like big band music. I was a child of the 40s and big band. I like jazz. You name it, jazz is one of my favorite things. And I will have to admit that I don't know many things that have come out in the last 30 years. Everything that I know was my age, uh, Dave Brubeck, things of that nature.
Oh, stop. You cannot mention Dave Brubeck without getting me to sigh and swoon. I was introduced to Take Five, the song, when I was at summer camp one summer, and I was sort of kind of dating a boy named Richie at camp, and he played. We didn't have music players like we do today. We didn't have CDs. I'm dating myself too, Bill. And he played Take Five by the Dave Brubeck Trio, and I fell in love with it, and I bought the record. So I know, I know. What's your favorite Dave Brubeck song?
Well, Take Five is right on the list, and I got to tell you a story about that. I
Please.
saw the quartet play when back at Texas Tech back in the 60s,
Oh my.
and it was so marvelous because they were playing Take Five, and then Brubeck just got up and left the stage, and then the sax player put it down, walked off. Al, the bass player, walked off, just leaving Joe Morello banging on the drums. They all went out and had a cigarette, and they came back about 7 minutes later, and he's still thrashing on the drums. And
Get
then they
out.
picked up where they left off.
Oh my. Wow. Da 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 dum dum da da dum da. Right? Take
Yep.
five.
Paul Desmond, the sax player, his name escaped me, but
Yes.
I
And
would
wasn't
listen. I would recognize his playing on any piece of music you've ever heard.
and wasn't Dave Brubeck's son Darius? Didn't he join the group later on in later years?
Yes,
Darius
and then
Brubeck.
he had a Brubeck quartet that
Yes.
after his dad passed away.
Yeah. Oh, what great, what wonderful songs. I got the sheet music for Take Five at one point. I was playing classical piano, taking lessons, and I got to tell you, that was not an easy song to play at all because it's so offbeat. I think it's a 5/7 beat. I'm probably
Hmm.
embarrassing myself here. Anyway, oh, tell me some more music. This is fun. Tell me who are your favorite big bands? Any songs you like?
Uh, Ted Heath, which almost nobody has heard of these days, but he was a big band player in Europe and England particularly. And back in the 50s, he had a piece called The Faithful Hussar, which I still love. Real hard to find, but it is on the internet. Then Glenn, my mind is not working. At my age, it stops, about 10 o'clock in the morning.
No excuses. Did you like Glenn Miller Band? Did you like
Glenn
Count
Miller, that was
Basie?
what I was trying to think of.
I'll help you out, kid. I
Yeah,
know.
Glenn
Count,
Miller, Tom and Jimmy Dorsey,
yes.
all of those. I played trombone in a big band in Washington, D.C. back in the early 70s
Wow.
and thoroughly enjoyed it. But I was never very good at it. I could never improvise, so I just played what the music said.
There
And
you go.
after a while, I just had too many other things going on, so I had to drop that off. But I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I will tell you that on my TV show on Long Island many years ago called Something to Talk About, I invited, trying to think of the man's last name. It was a big band, a small big band, 13 pieces on Long Island. I invited them to my TV studio in Lake Success, and I think we set up risers, and we actually had all 13 pieces there with the name of with the leader, and his wife Doris was a singer, and I think she sang a song. I'm thinking of Orange Colored Sky. Do you remember that song? Just
That one doesn't ring a bell.
oh, I'll send you a link to it later on. And I've never forgotten that song. And they sang and they played in my studio. And we I don't think we I think we might have been a live show at that point, something to talk about. And it was quite an interesting thrill. But I was a dancer. I was teaching and I was dancing when I was living in Oregon, and then a little bit just basically social dancing when I came back to Long Island years later. And I remember loving the big band, the swing.
Hmm.
Are you a dancer? East Coast swing, West Coast swing? What's your pref?
Uh, Traditional,
It's East Coast.
foxtrot. Haven't had a chance to dance in a long time.
Well, come on over. I have a big living room. Well, I'll rip up the carpet and we'll do that. I was teaching East Coast swing and cha-cha, and we used to call it Lindy. Remember the
I
Lindy?
re- Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember the Lindy and
yeah.
foxtrot and tango and all
Oh
that
yeah.
sort of stuff.
I love that. I love that. I was teaching cha-cha. I was teaching we used to call it mambo. It's salsa now. I was teaching merengue. I was teaching Lindy, and I was teaching hustle, partner hustle, and line dances in several
Okay.
places. So I'm a big fan of the music you're talking about. Any other favorite songs from that era? I'd love to hear more.
Well, it's not so much from that era, but one that resonates between that era and jazz is the theme from Rocky with Hugh Masekela on the
Oh
trumpet.
my.
And
Oh
that
my.
ending with him hitting that high note just absolutely blew me away. And so whenever I had an important meeting or something and I needed to get pumped up for it, I'd play a recording of that in the car going to the meeting. And by the time he hit that note, I'm ready to roar.
Isn't it interesting? Music is, it's not just inspiring or relaxing to me. Music just goes right to my, I'm going to use a word I don't usually use, go to my spirit, my soul. and I can hear a theme song from a TV show. I watch a lot of French detective procedurals, Bill. I used to speak fairly fluent French, and now I just watch the subtitles and say, gee, they really say that well. But anyway, some of them have an intro theme song that is so, to me, emotional that I have to skip the intro or I'm going to sit there and cry. Do you have music that just really gets to you like that?
Yeah, and one, growing up out in West Texas and basically desert area, one that has always appealed to me is "Don't Fence Me In." Okay, Gene
Don't
Autry
fence
came out
me
with that.
in. Yep,
Yeah,
I know the
give
song.
me land, lots of land
And
under
under
starry
starry
skies
skies
above.
above, don't
Don't
fence
fence
me
me
in.
in. Yeah,
Oh, you didn't know I knew those lyrics, did you? I heard them
nothing
from the,
surprises me about you, Red.
you're a dear. I heard them from the womb from my mother. Yeah, that's where I heard them. We'll just leave that one alone. Those are wonderful songs. Any rock and roll? Did you venture into that era with anything you listened to? Early rock?
Aquarius. Okay,
Oh, from
you
here.
know, Aquarius. The fifth dimension is
Oh,
just a tremendous group. Mamas and the Papas.
oh, you're
You know,
killing me here. These are wonderful. These are wonderful. By the way, Marilyn McCoo and I think her husband were on my radio show several years ago. They were at the publicity summit pushing a book.
oh, really? Okay.
Yes, Marilyn McCoo from the Fifth Dimension and her husband at the time, and I invited them and I cried. I was at WGBB AM 1240 doing live studio radio on Friday nights back in the late 90s, and Marilyn McCoo and was it Billy Davis? Maybe that was his last name. I can't remember. They called in and she sent me a copy of their book and I was in tears. I was so excited to talk to them.
Well,
Lovely
her
people, by the
her her
way.
song "Marry Me, Bill."
Oh, won't you marry me, Bill?
Yes,
I got the wedding day blues, right?
I was dating a girl before my current wife, and every time the guys and I would go out for a drink after working at the TV station, they would immediately play "Marry Me, Bill" in my honor. So I couldn't get away from it.
Oh, that was a wonderful song. Oh, I enjoyed the Fifth Dimension so much, so much. Yeah, you're hitting some high notes there to be very corny about the whole thing, Bill. You told me, oh, my music is from so long ago. Well, those were some of the best songs and the best groups, don't you think? Bill, you okay?
I'm okay. I just
Okay.
had my phone going off in my ears and
Okay. All right.
had
Good.
to shut
Okay.
it off.
Thank you very much. Okay, so what I'd like to do is I'll tell you a little bit about some of my favorite songs. Well, we've already covered your songs, and I like many of those, but I found over the years, since I was a disco dancer and a teacher, an instructor, and I used to do demos, Donna Summer was my favorite from that era. She left us way too soon. And her discography, Bill, the titles of some of her highlights of her music list are the story of my life. One is She Works Hard for the Money. I
Mm.
can attest to that. Number two is Hot Stuff, although I will give a disclaimer. I was never a streetwalker in LA, but I've been called hot stuff in my time. On the radio, for a shy girl who grew up very, very shy, sorta, kinda. I've been on the radio for about 20. I still call this radio what we're doing. No More Tears, Enough is Enough. That was one of her duets, I believe, with Streisand. It was a great song. Enough is enough is enough. I can't. Yeah. Last Dance. Well, I don't dance in public anymore, but I dance in my kitchen and I have a really good time. So that was that Last Dance. But I was still dancing in when I was in Durham a few years ago. I was emceeing some dance cotillions for a dance studio and doing some spotlight dances. It was a lot of fun. I Feel Love, the one with Giorgio Moroder's machine, the beat machine in the background, and Heaven knows just how much I love you from the MacArthur Park Suite, which was Donna Summer's version of MacArthur Park Suite. And my dance partner Michael and I entered a Disco Hawaii contest, and that was our song, Heaven Knows. We came in third. Nobody told us that the people who won owned their own dance studio. We thought it was an amateur contest. These were pros. Anyway, so there you go. So those are my songs. What do you think of my list?
I think
Interesting?
it's an excellent list. A lot of memories on that one too.
Lot of, and I'll give you one more song that I like because it's an anthem and everybody knows it. It was, let me see, Me and Bobby McGee, 1971, Janis Joplin's version. And the line from there, I think you and I both subscribe to this, is freedom's just another
Another
word for
place
nothing left to
left to
lose.
lose.
Nothing left to lose. What do you think?
Janis Joplin was a good Texas girl. I had to admit I followed her quite well.
There you go. So those are some of my songs on my list. But thank you for the memories of Dave Brubeck. Oh, nobody's talked about Dave Brubeck on the show and big bands and oh yeah, there used to be when I was on Long Island before I started moving around the country or after I moved went to Oregon and came back. I was dating a day. I've dated several dancers, and I remember there was a big band on Long Island that used to perform at one of the hotels on I don't know where, Old Country Road, Merrick Road, Sunrise Highway, somewhere out there. And we used to go and dance, and it was mostly Lindy. There were a lot of foxtrots, Bill. You could do a lot of foxtrots to the big band, the slower songs, and there were some Latin beats in there. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, talking about big bands and the hotels, the big bands played at the hotels. And you're probably familiar, I think it was Glenn Miller, Pennsylvania 65000.
Oh my God.
That's the
That I heard
hotel.
from the womb. Yeah, I
That,
know
that,
that was,
that, that's the telephone number for the hotel, which they
yes,
did as a promotion, and it became a top
yes.
song.
Pennsylvania, 5,000. I remember. Yep. Oh my goodness gracious. This is digging way back in time. But you know what? Music lasts, doesn't it? It,
Let's
people
face it, we're
remember.
still listening to medieval music, uh, music from the 15, 16, 1700s.
I thought music from the 50s was medieval. Excuse me. Okay. You never know who's listening and watching. What can I tell you? Let's move on to the part of the show called OTT, Off the Top, Fast and Furious. I have a whole list here. I'm going to pick a couple of topics and I'll throw one at you. You'll give your answer and then I'll give mine. So you've been so creative over your entire life, Bill. I'm a big fan of your imagination, your brain. You're a very inspirational young man, young fellow. What do you use to start your day that fuels your superpower, your creativity superpower? Is it a certain drink? Is it coffee? Is it a breakfast meal? What gets into your body and makes all these creative sparks happen? Tell me.
Coffee helps.
Okay.
Coffee with cream, or half and half
Mm.
rather. I've been a regular at the local Waffle House for probably half a century, and a nice waffle is a great way to go too.
What do you put on the waffle? Come on, we want more. We want to know the Bill
Just
Williams special.
regular syrup, and preferably a pecan waffle.
Ooh, a question. Don't they have all of those fancy syrups? I know that the House of Pancakes, HOP, used to have those. They have the strawberry syrup and the raspberry syrup and the pineapple syrup. Do you any of those?
They basically have regular syrup and sugar-free syrup. Yeah,
Oh,
at the
but
Waffle House. But I've been a regular. I won't say a regular in many years, but many years ago I was a regular at the IHOP, so I'm familiar with their menu too.
you are. When you're home, do you brew your own coffee? Do you have a milkshake? What do you have in the morning when you're not going to the Waffle House?
Basically, I have become very fond of Keurig, you know,
Okay,
and
I have one of those.
the
I own one.
pods, and it makes it so simple because if
Yep.
I brew a pot of coffee, 90% of it's going to go away because I
Yep.
don't get a chance to drink that much of it.
Single
So
serve.
when my
Mm-hmm.
daughter's in town, we definitely use the coffee pot. So
What's your favorite style of coffee, or do you use caffeine? I can't do caffeine anymore, but do you have a favorite flavor or coffee pod that is your absolute best favorite?
well, yeah, a couple of places come up with breakfast blend,
Yes.
and I like that one.
Okay. Well,
I take almost anything, but
okay.
given my druthers, I'd probably pick that one.
I am relegated to herbal tea, mostly peppermint, sometimes an Earl Grey, Lady Grey, because I can't do caffeine in coffee. But I used to be able to drink about 8 to 10 cups a day, and over the years, the caffeine just became like a drug to me. And
I'm limited to three cups of caffeine in a day.
you'd be scraping me off the ceiling with a half a cup of real coffee. So I don't do that anymore. But my breakfast treat, my creativity spark, I hope, wake up I have a personal blender, one of those ones that has is about a 12-ounce plastic cup and has a little motor. It's red, of course, and a cap with a little opening on it. And I put in one banana, a medium size. If it's a large, and I buy 9 bananas a week and they have to last me the whole week. They can't be too speckled and they can't be mushy and they can't be too green. I spend a lot of time in the banana part of the produce in my supermarket, Bill. If you ever come to Loudon, Tennessee, and you go to my Food Lion here, you'll see me standing there discerningly selecting my bananas. It's a big deal.
You sound
Anyway,
like my wife.
okay, well, I'll be happy to meet her. And I put the banana in, then I put in, sometimes I sneak in a little bit of Breyer's old-fashioned vanilla ice cream if I want a treat, and then a little bit of Hershey's unsweetened cocoa, the dry cocoa powder, and then a squirt of raw agave syrup and for my sweetener instead of sugar. It looks like, almost looks like rum. It's in a dark bottle and you squeeze it out and it's just like a syrup. And a couple of slices of frozen, unsweetened frozen strawberries. And then I put the lid on it and I hold it down a little bit and I pulse it for about 3 or 4. It's not an on off switch, it's a pulse. So, and then when I think it's done, I take the cap off. I put in one of my reusable straws that I have a pipe cleaner to clean it out with. And I'll drink that here at my desk. And that gets me started in the day. What do you think?
I think that's entirely too much work for me.
Oh, I have a little game I play when I do it. It's fine. It's a lot of fun. Okay, let's see now. Vacation favorites. I know you've been around the world. Where are some of it doesn't even have to be vacation, travel favorites. Where have you been that's your favorite and where would you still like to go? Bill?
I love the mountains and I love the desert.
Which mountains, which desert?
Any mountains in any desert, okay? Death Valley is a great place, just outside of Las Vegas in California. And one of the most beautiful places I've ever been is Death Valley shortly after a rainfall, when just the entire, as far as you can see, is filled with flowers. And they last a day and then it's gone. And if your timing is right, that's marvelous.
Wow. Wow. Is there a place in the world you haven't been that you would like to visit?
Any place I haven't been, I would like to visit.
Oh, come on. There
I,
must be something special.
well, not really. I have been very fortunate in that I've hit 49 of the 50 states, and
I
I
didn't put
haven't
that in
made
the
it.
poem.
I haven't made it out to the Hawaii yet. Okay,
Okay.
but just hasn't happened. But I've thoroughly enjoyed just about everything. I love the Sonoran Desert, the Big Bend area down around down around the Big Bend in Texas.
Hmm.
My dad, as a matter of fact, had a place down in the ghost town of Terlingua that he built, and he was the mayor of Terlingua till he died. So he had a population of 8 or 10.
Well, somebody had to be the mayor.
Hey,
Oh, that's cute. Well, I toured Europe when I was for about 8 weeks when I was 18 or 19 years old. I think after the first year of college, my parents treated me to a European trip, and I studied at the University of Neuchâtel in Neuchâtel, Switzerland, and I lived with a Swiss family for a month. And I learned the value of drinking tea and putting milk in it and savoring 2 croissants and a lot of strawberry or raspberry jam they served. That was all they gave us. But lunch was the big meal. And Bill, because we were pensionnaires, whatever, we were there for, the tour paid these families to take 2 girls. We had a big clawfoot tub at the top. I think we shared a bedroom, the other young lady and I, but they gave us one cloth napkin for the week. And if you're eating for dinner time, it would be look like a fruit pizza with fresh blueberries or strawberries, and you're politely wiping your mouth. You're going to have dots of blueberry and strawberry all over this napkin. So you learn to fold it so that it looked clean when it went back on the table because they weren't going to do the laundry every day. So I learned the value of drinking 2 or 3 big cups of tea with a lot of milk and a little bit of sugar and savoring my 2 allocated croissants with a lot of jam to be able to get. And then I would buy a chocolate bar and an apple when I went to the university. What do you think of that?
I think that's marvelous. I've been to Europe, but all of my trips to Europe have been on business. I
Oh,
shot a film in Poland back in 1974. It was the effects of America, the effects of America on life in Poland for our bicentennial. And it was a
whoa.
fascinating thing. Poland was still under the communist rule at the time. And it was a very, very delightful experience meeting the Poles. And then I had a project with DuPont, which had me traveling through Scandinavia, shooting film in Finland and Denmark and Sweden. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. It was interesting, though. I had to take a drive from Sweden across the water to the top of Denmark and then drive down Denmark to Copenhagen. And it was so foggy that entire trip. I can honestly say I have driven through all of Denmark and never seen anything except the yellow line next to the driver's side.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
It was so foggy I couldn't believe it.
Did you get to Copenhagen? Did you get to Tivoli Gardens?
I got to Copenhagen just in time to drive through Copenhagen and get to the airport to leave. So unfortunately, I did not get to do any sightseeing.
Well, my tour included Rome. I think it was Rome. We went to Venice. Hard to find a pizza there, but we finally found one. We saw the canals, went to London, went to Copenhagen, took a ferry over to Malmo, Sweden for the afternoon. I don't remember much other than somebody mentioned Malmo and I knew where it was. We went to Paris for a couple of days. And I took the train into Geneva to extend my trip a couple of times. Very interesting being 18, speaking reasonably fluent French and being on a train with people who are on their way to business or whatever they were doing in Geneva from Neuchâtel and saying, I'm okay, I can do this, I can do this. It was interesting. It was a day trip. And I actually met for lunch a young man I knew from school in Little Neck, New York, who was doing some kind of an internship in Geneva that summer. Brooks Mirror. He ended up being an MD, a doctor. I've lost touch with him over the years, but I met up with him and we had lunch and we walked around the parks in Geneva and then I went back on the train and went back to where I was staying. It
I
was
got a story to tell you about
yeah.
Poland.
Please go
Okay.
ahead. Yeah.
Uh, One of the places that we photographed was Chopin's birthplace outside of Warsaw.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And I had the cameras all set up, and I talked to my translator, and I said, Terry, we really need to find some people to just walk through the shot, that would be okay with them. And he came back with a smile and said, I found a group of people that I think you'll like. And I said, fine, if that's okay with them. He said, it'll be okay with them. It was the basketball team from Muskingum College in Ohio.
What? Seriously, go ahead.
Seriously.
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, I did see Elizabeth Taylor in an airport, I think when we were leaving Rome, and there were a couple of famous actors we saw in airports when we were traveling. But where would you said you'd like to go back? Any particular place? You've been everywhere. Separate from the States, you've been to 49 states, but is there a place somewhere? Have you been to Dubai? Have you been in a restaurant that's 50 yards above the ground or something? I've read about that. Anything exciting you'd like to do?
Actually, almost anything you could imagine, because I've just told you the list of my travels, other than, the Caribbean, been down there many
Mm-hmm.
times. And, but other than that, I have not traveled to Asia. I have not traveled to Africa. I have not traveled to South America, even though I could see it from the boat.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I am looking forward when I get an opportunity to expand my travels because, yes, I have traveled all over the U.S. I thoroughly enjoy the U.S., Canada, Mexico, but I'm ready to go other places.
I went to Expo 67 as a young college student with the man who became my husband years later. He was at Yale. I was at Sarah Lawrence, which was an all-girls, very elite school back in the day. And I had to get my parents' had to get permission from the one of the young men we traveled with, had to get a signed signature from the woman whose cabin we were staying at. It was somebody's elderly aunt that she would chaperone us because I was one girl with three boys going to Expo 67 in Montreal. That was quite an interesting trip. I'll tell you about it later. Anyway, I don't travel anymore, but I go to the grocery store every week. So
Hey,
I
that counts.
it does. I fill up my car about every 4 months with gas because I drive about 6 miles a week. And I have to remember how to open the gas cap sometimes because
Yeah.
I'm serious. I'm serious.
Well,
So,
the only World's Fair I've been to was Hemisphere 69 in San Antonio
okay.
because I was on the faculty down at the University of Texas and directing their TV program. And they had a TV studio set up in the Texas Pavilion at
Mm-hmm.
Hemisphere. And it was the
Nice.
first color studio that we actually had access to.
Oh.
So we did a TV special, and I had to drive down from Austin to San Antonio on a regular basis to put this TV production together for Hemisphere 69.
I lived close to the World's Fair in Flushing Meadows, New York, and we did a couple of class trips there. And I think I went with friends and family as well. I won't tell you what year and I won't tell you how old I was, but I was very young. And I remember the pavilions. I've been to Epcot as well in Florida.
Oh, I've been
And
there.
yeah, yeah, interesting places to go. I'm not interested in traveling anymore, but I get to speak with interesting people like you on my shows. So I travel through your stories. How's that sound?
Hey, not quite as good as being there yourself, but it's
I
better than nothing.
Well, I have one of those Quest VR headsets, and I've gone on tours. I've seen Lake Lausanne, and I've taken tours on triple-decker buses, and I've watched butterfly gardens in church arboretums in Asia, and I've been all over the world. The headset's very heavy and very clunky, but if I want to travel, I do it that way. We'll just leave it at that. Okay. Oh, wait a minute now. I'm getting a phone call. Hold on. Hold on. Bill, just hold on. Wait a minute. Who is it? It's Tarantino? No, wait a minute. It's Martin Scorsese? You want me? No, you want Bill. You want to talk to Bill? Clint Eastwood? Francis Ford Coppola? Wait a minute. Who's that in the back? Aaron Sorkin is. Wait a minute. I hear Shonda Rhimes. What? Seth MacFarlane? No. Christopher Nolan? Guy Ritchie? Come on. You guys, you're all crowding in there. Come on, be polite. You want to talk to Bill? Well, you have to go through me. Okay. You want to make a story of his life? Okay, not a biopic. All right. You want Bill to decide, does he want a movie or a TV series? Okay, his choices, Bill, you have to pick the director. Your choices are action, drama, fantasy, musical, romance, comedy, sci-fi, thriller, or time travel. Any of those. We want to know the title of your movie. Coppola says you have to pick a really, really exciting title. Okay, Guy Ritchie says you have to pick somebody for the actor to play you. And okay, all right, I'll get back to you, everybody. Just don't knock. Come on, be nice. Stop. Bill will decide. Hold on. Okay, bye. All right, they call. They do this on the show from time to time. So, do you want a movie, an action movie, a romance movie? What would a movie be that you would see yourself as a character starring in? Bill?
Well, it definitely wouldn't be romance, and I can't really say that it would be action.
Okay.
Probably a historical documentary.
Okay. And what who would play you? You can't be
Richard
in the
Dreyfuss. So many people have
Oh,
said that he and I look a lot alike, and
little
we
bit.
have been known to have similar appearances at times in our various lives.
Okay. What would the
So,
title be?
been there, done that.
I like that. Is this a feature movie or is this a TV series? You could make it into an 8 or 10 episode TV series, you
Yeah,
know.
TV series would be work because I've been there lots of places and done lots of things. So
Been there,
that
done that.
covers it.
We have to look up and see if anybody's done a movie of, well, people duplicate movie names all the time. So that's really cool. And which director did you say? Who do you want?
Martin would work.
Okay. All right.
Check, see if he's available.
Scorsese, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll highlight that. All right. I'll get back to him. They told me they're going to lunch and I should call them later. Okay. Ron Howard was interested also in your story. He wasn't there, but he sent a text message that he wanted to talk to you. Okay. I'll tell Scorsese he won the battle here and that it's going to be a historic. Okay, good. We can do that. Is there any kind of what kind of music would you like to pick a theme song for it? One of your big band favorites or You can't pick a Brubeck song for that kind of
No,
a
I
TV
can't pick a
show.
Brubeck
No,
thing
no,
for
no.
that,
That's not
but
going to work.
there is a piece out there. Uh, Once again, my brain turned off, but one of the big uh, ar- composers of the 70s and 80s came out with a number of pieces, and one of the very minor pieces that he ever did was called Turtles. And I really backtracked, I believe it was. And I used that as the theme song for my thesis. And that has always been a favorite of mine. Nice beat to it.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Well, mine would be a TV show. And it would be one of the Donna Summer titles, like She Works Hard for the Money or Hot Stuff or something like that. One of those. I don't know, Heaven Knows, something like that. And it would be either Reba McEntire or there's another redhead, Bonnie Raitt. It could be Bonnie Raitt. And my TV show in New York was called Let's Give Them Something to Talk About. Because it was a public access station, we were allowed to use licensed music because we were a nonprofit station. So we had access to whatever music. So I might want Bonnie Raitt to be to basically be me, you know? She has that streak in her hair, and I play drums. She plays guitar, and yeah, or Reba McEntire. Mine would be a musical comedy, and it would be an 8 episode limited series, and that's it. So, what do you think? Would you go to see it? Would you watch it
I
on your
would
TV
definitely go
show?
to see it. Absolutely.
I'll tell you when it's scheduled. It would probably be on a streaming channel. It wouldn't be on one of the network TVs. Okay. And one more thing, Bill, before we go to our say what? Can you say that with me? And the next segment is going to be say what wacky stories. You ready? Say what? Can you do that?
Say what?
Oh, that's one of the best anybody's ever done. Wow. Very well done.
Tell
Okay.
anybody.
Question. I'll tell everybody. Okay. Um, Let's see. If is there something that you bought or made for yourself that you either gave away or broke or lost over the years that you wish you still had? Anything. Could be electronic, it could be a gadget, it could be a toy, it could be something tangible. What do you think?
I wish I still had my trombone.
Oh, where is it?
I sold it about 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Why?
I didn't need it. It was taking up time. I had to move, and it was just something else to move. And I thought, I'm never going to play this again, but it'd be nice to be able to pick it up and see if I could make sounds out of it again.
We'll have to ask around, see if anybody has it.
It's
I
a King
still
3B.
Nice. I still cart around my mother's 1953 Krakauer baby grand piano every time I move. You don't want to know what it's cost me over the years. It hasn't been tuned in about 15 years. One of the keys is a little sad, but it's still here. I have all of the old sheet music and the songbooks from the 60s and 70s. My mom used to, if you hummed a couple of notes of a song, Bill, just hum and sang a little bit of words. My mom would sit down and fill the room with music. She had that ear. She knew how to play by ear, and she was a marvelous pianist. Her neighbors used to complain that she didn't play her piano enough. You ever heard of that?
That's a great complaint.
Oh yeah, it was a great complaint. She used to do parody songs with a friend of hers for a group she belonged to, a social group they belonged to. They used to do parodies from Broadway tunes. It was really, really fun. She lived to 100 years old in 1 month and 15 days. There you go. Okay, my thing is what would I have I lost? I'm trying to think of what I gave away or lost. That's a question I haven't thought about it myself. There's not much. I'm not a hoarder, but I'm a keeper and I keep a lot of things and I have so many memories. I'll tell you a quick story. I didn't know where this bracelet came from. I wasn't sure. I have an extensive collection of what we'll call bridge jewelry from eBay that I buy by a lot, LOT, a box, a lot, people put together. And I didn't know, I found this bracelet in one of my jewelry boxes and I didn't know where it came from. I'm off the topic, I know. And one day on my iPad, there's a carousel of pictures that pop up on your iPad. In this carousel of about 10 pictures from nostalgic pictures of places I've been, people I've known, a picture of my mom pops up sitting in a restaurant across from me, and she's doing this and she's wearing this bracelet. This happened 3 days after I found this bracelet in a jewelry box and had no idea where it came from. Is that
What a
something?
great story.
Yeah, thank you. That was a little shaking there, a little shaken. So anyway, there's not really much. I keep a lot of things, as I say. The one thing I lost that I really loved was I was in a death-defying car accident in Durham about 5, 7 years ago. I should not be here. It was a freak accident, and I was propelled across 3 lanes of traffic at 85 miles an hour in a rainstorm, and nobody stopped, and nobody hit me, and nobody called the police, and I rammed into the guardrail in the middle between 3 lanes on one side and three on the other, and there was a median strip that was basically a swamp, and the car turned around 180 degrees and sat on the guardrail, and nobody touched me and nobody beeped, and I saw my death. And the car was totaled just because of the rear quarter damage. The insurance company paid me everything everything that I had paid for the car 3 years earlier, which was strange. But I loved that car and I missed that car. And it was sad that I had to total it. I had to give up a boat when I moved from Oregon back to New York. My dad said, don't bring your boat with you. So I had to give up a beautiful, beautiful outboard boat with an 85 horsepower Johnson hydraulic lift engine. And I used to take friends skiing in that boat, and it had a walk-through windshield. And oh, it was hot. It was a hot boat. Anyway, I still have the key. And the name of the boat was Libra, which is my sign. I'm talking too much. Okay, Bill, it's time for a say what, which you said so well. I haven't thought about those things in quite a while, by the way. So you're going to talk us through 3 stories you have selected. I know you don't have pictures, but you've got something you're going to show us. So let's go through your stories first, and then I'm going to show mine. Okay?
Okay. Well, one of the things is, a $2 bill. Most people have never even seen a $2 bill. And gee whiz,
Hold in front. There
bring
you
it
go,
back to
right in
me.
front of you.
There we go.
Perfect, perfect, perfect.
I used to carry $2 bills all the time to use as tips. Okay. And particularly when you go someplace where you're a regular, there's the $2 bill guy. They remember you. Okay. And it's astounding. A lot of people didn't even think they were real money, but they're real money. And I used to, when went to the bank, picked up all the $2 bills that they happen to have come through, okay, because they don't carry them in stock. And then about 5 years ago, I went in to do that. And lo and behold, they said, well, we don't keep them anymore. We immediately send them to the Federal Reserve. And I said, could I get some from the Federal Reserve? And they said, yes, but you have to order a minimum of 1,000. And I said, yeah, I really don't necessarily need 1,000 $2 bills. So this is the one that I just keep with me no matter what.
Hold it
Well,
right on
here
your
we
face. There
go.
you go.
Okay. It's in my pocket all the time. I just love $2 bills.
And
And there was a time back about 69 or 70, I guess, when they stopped making them. Now they
no.
still make them, but they stopped for about 5 years. And I have this big poster in one of my rooms someplace, if I could dig it up, that has a copy of the $2 bill with the headline, Last Year of the $2 Bill.
Oh.
But they're out there. They've been published or, in circulation for the last 200 years at least. And they typically call it a Tom because Tom Jefferson is the person whose name is on the bill.
I'm going to make a
But
suggestion. I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Your limited TV series you're going to make with Martin Scorsese, okay? Why don't, instead of been there, done that, why don't you call it $2 bill?
good thought. Good thought. I like that.
It speaks volumes. Doesn't it?
It does.
Okay. All right.
It,
Now continue. Sorry, but I just had this thought. Okay. Go
well,
ahead.
I just also tossed out because I'd done a number of historical things on currency and stamps that there was a $3 bill issued for a while back about 1820, I guess it was. Bonnie, do you have any idea who was on the $3 bill?
I wouldn't even hazard a guess. Florence Nightingale. I don't know who.
Santa Claus.
I was going to say which version, but I won't say that. Mm. What did he look like? Was he jolly? Did he have a white beard?
I haven't seen one of those in many years, but it was the common version of Santa Claus when the famous artist came up with it back in the 1800s, and that was the image that they used. But they were also wanting to know about other strange things, and one of them was the fact that we have literally hundreds of types of Navy ships out there. And I've been on a number of them working for the Navy, but one of them I've never been on is the ice cream barge. You know, back in World War II, let's face it, the South Pacific was a hot place, and the many men in the Navy really needed something to brighten their day. And so the Navy thought, why don't we set up a barge, not a big ship, but just a barge that can be towed around that just would make hundreds and hundreds of gallons of ice cream and provide it to all the ships out there. And so during World War II, the ice cream barge was a big and a popular thing that went around the South Pacific.
Fascinating. Delicious. What flavors? Did they tell you what flavors they were?
I know they made chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla, and I
There you
think
go.
occasionally they were able to come up with butter pecan, but
I,
not too
I
many things other than that.
I knew you were going to say butter pecan. Okay, one of your favorites. Okay, interesting. Yeah, fascinating. You got one more?
Well, yeah, office supplies. You know, everybody has a pencil. Pencil typically has an eraser on the end of it.
Yep.
But what did they do before they had erasers? Let's face it, rubber is something relatively new. And back in the 1700s and the 1800s, they still had pencils, but they used breadcrumbs to erase the pencil marks.
No,
Dried breadcrumbs.
no.
Okay.
Wow.
And while you're on the idea of office supplies, like let's face it, pencils is an office supply,
Hmm.
uh, highlighters, they were basically an offshoot of the felt tip pen. Felt tip pens came out, they had dark inks and all that, and somebody else came up with the idea that said, well, why don't we just lighten the ink and make it lighter, and that way it can go over things instead of covering it up. And the highlighter was born.
Necessity. Brilliance. I think it was a light bulb moment.
Yes,
Highlighter,
well,
light bulb moment.
and then an accident. You know,
Uh-oh.
3M was out there trying to develop a really strong adhesive,
Hmm.
and one of their failures was a very not strong adhesive, which became the Post-it note.
Oh, I've heard that story. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
and it was one of those things that, gee whiz, if it doesn't work this way, let's try something else. And it became a huge moneymaker for them, although it started out as being a failure.
Fascinating. Fascinating. Any more?
Well, correction fluid,
Oh, whiteout, we
basic,
used to call it, right? Whiteout?
yeah, whiteout, yeah, sure. It was basically a secretary back in the early 1950s that was just really tired because for those of us can remember back into the early 1950s, we didn't have copy machines and all that sort of stuff. We had something called carbon paper,
Yes.
and you had to put carbon paper in to make copies.
Yes.
And making corrections was a huge problem because you had to correct all the different copies. And so she thought, well, why don't we just use some of the paint that the guy is painting the office with and get a little bit of that paint and white it out and type over it? And so that was basically the start of the correction. As I recall, the woman who created that actually wound up being a millionaire.
Really? I remember carbon paper. You used to buy a sheaf of it, a little a set of it, like if you bought fancy paper to write fancy letters on, it would come in a box, I'm going to say, or something very thin. Yeah. Anyway, and I remember getting the ink on your hands because it was hard to handle, right? You could get the ink from,
Absolutely. It was
yeah.
carbon, let's face it. That's
And every time you used it, especially in a typewriter, the impression of the letters you hit on the typewriter were on the carbon paper. So you had to turn the paper over and see was there enough ink left to use it on something else. Because if you were hitting the spot, if you had the letter B and it happened to be in the same place, there might not be enough ink left on the carbon to properly convey the B. Am I right?
You're absolutely right.
History.
When I was having my master's thesis typed, we didn't have copiers. And so we had to have carbons, and the
Mm-hmm.
carbons could not have an error in them.
That's
So
right.
we had specialists who typed theses who were just the most excellent typists out there because we had to have three copies, and it was either type three different versions of the thesis or use carbons. And so they just made sure they didn't make a mistake.
And does anybody know, or you want to tell us that the CC we put on a letter or an email where somebody is on the second, not the two line, the CC line is
BCC,
carbon copy and BCC is blind
blind
carbon
carbon
copy.
copy.
But the CC is carbon copy, and that's where it comes from, right?
Absolutely.
There you go. History made. Interesting. Any more?
That's off the top of my head, but we could come up with something. Give me a chance to think about it.
Well, I have some stories I want to share. So
I thought you might.
I do. I do. I'm going to start sharing my screen here. Let me do a screen share and let's see what we've got here. Let me close a bunch of stuff here. We don't want that open. Okay, so let me share here and hide a bunch of stuff. And the first one I have, I thought in the interest of you being so literary and literate, Mr. Bill W., I would pick this one. And here's a picture of Fred Rogers. Can you see that, Mr. Rogers?
Yes, I've
And
been in his studio when he was taping in Pittsburgh.
really, Mr. Rogers, yes, Mr. Rogers'
Mr.
neighborhood. So,
Rogers' neighborhood.
so the way this article is written, I didn't change most of it, but it's every group has its rebel, and in the world of contractions, actually contradiction, the rebel is won't. It should be willn't, Willn apostrophe T.
Well, not.
That's right. It's a defiant contraction, and the author of this article is Rachel Gresh, who's a freelance writer. And the song "Won't You Be My Neighbor" is an example from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, sung by Fred. Won't you be my neighbor? She says, if the contraction was won't, it were replaced by willn't, why didn't it? It just wouldn't have fit the pattern of the usual. So most English contractions follow one of three patterns. You drop the first letter of the second word, like I apostrophe M, you drop the A. There, THEY, drop the A, apostrophe RE. And how is, you drop the I. Or you drop the second letter of the second word, shouldn't, so should not, and the O in not. Don't, do not, and the O is gone and isn't. Or you drop the first two letters of the second word, it'll, meaning it will. So you drop the WI in will, or he will. So won't, but it seems to follow the second rule. It drops the O in not, but anyway, blah, blah, blah. It's a strange, strange mixture. The answer lies in what she says is a messy evolution of language, Bill, that dates back to now extinct Middle English word why not? WYNNOT. It was actually a word. Win or wine, WIN, was a common spelling variant of will. So win not means will not. By the 15th century, it was replaced with won't, which was wool and not, and wool was another variation of will. So it was shortened to WO apostrophe NOT, and in the 18th century, it settled down as won't. So that's how we got won't. And it wouldn't do for him to sing, "Won't you be my neighbor?" So interesting. Did you know any of that?
I didn't know any of that, and frankly, I never gave won't a thought, although had
Yeah,
I given it a thought, I would say, how did that come about?
there
So
you
that's
go.
an interesting derivative.
I picked that story in honor of you. And this is something that goes back in time. Hood ornaments. Why? Remember the hood ornaments?
I
It
remember them, and I know why they aren't there
It
anymore.
started in 1911, and Rolls-Royce had the Spirit of Ecstasy figurine or some pictures on the hood, and Boyce Motometer became very popular. It was a thermometer that screwed into the radiator
Radiator.
cap.
Yep.
That's right. So
Model Ts.
the driver could look out and say, "Oh, the engine's starting to get hot. I better pull off the road." Well, these motometers, matometers, became obsolete when they put coolant temperature gauges into the cars or under the hood, and they didn't need them on top by the 1930s. Mercedes-Benz designed the three-point star. Only luxury cars had them. Jaguar had the leaping cat. Bentley had the flying bee. And so over time, they became a distraction and they started to disappear and they were considered hazardous. So by the late 1980s, the theft of the accessories had risen in the US in part because people were wearing hood ornaments around their necks, Bill. They were stealing them off the hoods and putting them on chains. So Mercedes-Benz made removable emblems available. Rolls-Royce and Bentley came with retractable anti-theft ornaments that go into the hood if you start messing around with them. What do you think? Cool?
Well, I think that's excellent. And one little additional point of view, you mentioned the Mercedes three-point star.
Yeah.
You know, that actually started as a propeller because Mercedes was making aviation engines,
Uh-huh.
and their original logo was a propeller, which has been modified over the years to just become a three-point star.
Really? Interesting. Well, I knew you would know something about this. And finally, my story, the third one is Denali's National Park Sled Dog Puppy Cam is live. This article was written a couple weeks ago, and the article is written by a reporter named Rebecca Brandis, and this is this year's litter. And what happens is these dogs are trained to be on the team, and they are named, they were born on May 3rd. The cam went live on May 30th, and the pups' names are Storm, Squall, Graupel, Graupel, must be something to do with the storm, Fog, and Dew. When the dogs on these teams, these kennel teams, the sled teams, become 9 years old, I assume that's in dogs' year and not people years, they're moved to private homes. So the weather litter, they call them, of puppies was named in honor of the 100 years of Kennel and National Weather Service of collecting weather data and influences of the water. So I don't know what a grapple is. I'll have to look that one up.
I can tell you what a graupel is.
What is it? What is it?
A graupel is rain that has, or snow that has melted on the way down and then refrozen. So it's
Thank
a
you.
little chunk of ice that started off as a piece of snow.
Thank you very much. So these are the mushing dogs, and this is a century-old tradition. And they say sled dogs have hearts and brains that machines like snowmobiles and airplanes do not. Well, in the era of AI, that may change. I'm just adding that as a footnote. Every kennel's ranger has a story of wise lead dogs helping them navigate to a patrol cabin in a whiteout snowstorm or to avoid dangerous ice obscured under the snow. Each year, the Denali sled dog kennels try to either adopt or breed a new litter of future rangers, and each is given a theme. So here are the dogs for this new theme, new team: Storm, Squall, Grapple, Fog, and Dew. Cute?
Cute. Very nice.
Yeah, there you go. Are you a dog person? Do you have puppies, dogs?
I have two grand dogs.
I do too.
Yeah. I don't have any dogs at the moment. I would love to have one, but let's face it, we're getting a little
Oh no,
long
we're no, no,
to
no.
have
We're
dogs.
getting a little too young for dogs, right? How far away do your grandpuppies live?
120 miles.
Mine are 2 hours away. That's about the same, right?
About the same, yeah. And they visit on a regular basis. I'm expecting them here next week for the 4th of
Good.
July.
I see mine a couple times a year. They travel around the country in a fancy RV. Tell me something. What are their names?
Uh, their names are Jones and Rusty. Rusty is a Chihuahua and Jones is a Rat Terrier.
Oh my. Ours are Australian Labradoodles. They're real doodles. And Amos Lee, named after my daughter and son-in-law's favorite singer. There is a real singer, human named Amos Lee. And the little one, who is the uncle of Amos, bought from the same breeder. Somehow there's a family line there. Was owned by an elderly couple that had to move to a home, a facility, and they had to give up the dog. And the breeder contacted my daughter and said, "Hey, we've got an uncle, even though he's 3 years younger than Amos. Would you like him?" And they met and they called him Jake Joseph, Jakey Joe. Joe named after my dad, and Jake because that's a name they like. So we have Amos Lee and Jakey Joe, and those are my two grandpuppies. I don't see them often enough, but they're very sweet. Very, very sweet. And they know when they're coming to grandma's house because they start to bark in the car. Grandma, grandma. They run in, they want to run on the bed, run around the living room. Oh, there's grandma. Let me jump up and give her a couple of kisses and licks. Yeah, I know. I know. Anyway, Bill, I have a question for you. Thanks for the articles. Those were really interesting. You are a font of information. I don't think there's anything I could say or do that you wouldn't know something about. And we certainly share some interesting musical fondness for certain music, which I thought was very, very interesting. That I didn't expect you. You warned me that you didn't know much about. modern music, and it was going to be from years past. And I didn't think you were going to say Dave Brubeck right off the bat. It's like, what? Say what? So Bill, a young man comes in somewhere, and he says, I saw Bill Williams. I want to meet him. So I introduce you to Bill, him on a Zoom call. I set it up, and he says, Bill, I want to grow up to have a wonderfully rich life and history like you. I want to travel the world. I want to invent things. I want to innovate things. I want to make things better. I want to be curious. I want to work with lots of people. I want to be a success. I want to make a difference. What would you advise this young man to do to become a cool dude, Bill? What would your advice be?
Never say I can't.
Ooh,
Never say I won't.
won't.
Give everything a try. If you don't succeed the first time, try it again. If you like what you're doing, keep at it till you're good at it. I just had somebody say, gee whiz, you've written all kinds of things. You've written for newspapers and magazines and TV and radio and all that sort of stuff. What would you advise somebody to do who wanted to do all the things you've done?
Mm-hmm.
And my answer is pick one of them. Pick any one of them and get good at it. And if somebody gives you an opportunity to try something else, don't say no.
There you go.
Try whatever you want. But if you're not good at it, keep at it till you are good, or say, that's not for me.
And move on. The advice I give people is if you see a little glimmer of light coming through that window, open the curtain, open the blind, see what's there. It might be an opportunity. And if that door is just a little bit of cracked open, just a little, push that door open and see what's there on the other side for you. You may be surprised. I think I'm on my ninth career, and I think you beat me by at least a couple of multiples, maybe squared. What are you on your 85th career, Bill? How many have you
Only,
had?
a couple a year. Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm only on nine, so I'm a young kid and I get to have a few more. So I'm going to put the closing music on. Bill, I hope this has been fun for you. You are I learn so much more about you every time I speak with you. You're a delight, you're an inspiration, and you're a really cool dude. I think you're officially Bonnie D's cool dude number 41. Can you deal with that in the
I can
first?
deal with that. I'd rather be number one, but hey, 41 is
I
better than
know.
216.
I know I'm not there yet, but maybe by the end of the year I might be. So let me put the music on. We're going to rock out a little bit here, and then we'll say goodbye to social. So here we go.
Bonnie, you are really special.
You're sweet. You can call me Ronnie. No, you can't. I'm going to stick with Bonnie. Or Red. My neighbors know me as Red. She lives in the corner. She always wears black. She goes by Red. Come on, let's rock. Looking real. Cool and fine. Casting your net. Here we go. Thank you to Herb. Thank you to Serge Hoffman. Bop, 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 bop. Credit where credit is due. Serge Hoffman, my friend in Paris, is a composer. He composed the music and sings. Those are my lyrics. So you want to be wave